So you probably use AI all the time, right? Brainstorming an email, planning a trip, maybe even just figuring out what to make for dinner. And it feels like magic. But what happens when the stakes get a little higher? When you're asking for real advice that could actually cost you time and money? Can you really trust what it's telling you?
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? As we all start leaning on these tools for, everything from product reviews to DIY projects, we have to know if they're accurate, if they're trustworthy. It's absolutely critical. So today, we're going to dive into some brand new research that really puts the world's best AIs to the test. Okay, imagine you type a prompt like this into your favorite AI assistant. It's pretty specific, right? It's got a budget, it has technical needs, and it needs to check for real live information out there on the internet. Now, a wrong answer here isn't just a small mistake. It could mean you buy the completely wrong camera or end up spending way more than you planned. This is exactly the kind of high-stakes, real-world problem that researchers wanted to get to the bottom of. So, to figure out if these AIs are actually up to the job, researchers came up with something totally new. Think of it like the ultimate final exam for AI assistants. They call it the AI Consumer Index, or ACE for short. The whole point of this ACE benchmark is actually pretty simple, but it's also a really big deal. The idea was to move past all the abstract tests and see if these super powerful models can handle the stuff we actually do every day. Can they genuinely help you in a meaningful and, this is the most important part, a truthful way?
So, who's in the lineup for this AI showdown? Well, the researchers brought in 10 of the heavy hitters from OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. We're talking about all the big names you'd expect. And, crucially, all of them were tested with their web search features turned on so they had full access to the live internet. The test itself was broken down into 4 key areas of our lives. But what's really cool about this is where the questions came from. They weren't just dreamed up by a bunch of programmers. No, they were designed by 47 real-world experts. People like personal shoppers, chefs, pro gamers, and even construction workers. These are questions that reflect genuinely complex, real consumer needs. Okay, now this is where the ACE test gets really, really clever. They basically built a 3-step lie detector into how they graded the answers. So first, it checks if the AI's response even looks like it meets your request. Then it asks, okay, does this answer make a factual claim, like a price or a specific feature that needs to be backed up? And if it does, it moves to the most critical step of all. It actually goes and checks the source to see if the AI is telling the truth. And here's the part that changes everything. The scoring. If an AI gives a correct answer and it's backed up by its source, great, it gets a point. But, and this is the real game changer, if it just makes stuff up, if it hallucinates a fact, it gets a point taken away. So it's not enough to just sound helpful. The AI has to be honest, or it literally gets penalized for it.
All right, so the stage is set. The rules are clear. We've got our 10 AI contestants and a really tough truth-focused exam. So how did they do? Who actually managed to pass this thing? Let's check out the leaderboard, and we'll start from the bottom of the top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have Google's Gemini 3 Pro. Moving up the ladder, there's Anthropic's O3, then OpenAI's GPT 5.1, followed closely by Anthropic's O3 Pro. And taking the number 1 spot, the winner of the AI Consumer Index is OpenAI's GPT-5. But hold on a second. Take a really close look at that winning score. The best performing AI model in the world, on a test designed to be just like the real world, scored a 56.1%. Just let that sink in for a moment. The best score is barely a passing grade. I mean, in most schools, that's a D-. This shows a huge gap between what we think AI can do and what it actually does in the real world. Even the top models are getting things wrong almost half the time. And if we break down the winner's score, the picture gets even clearer. So, look, it did pretty well in the food category, scoring about a 70%. Not bad, but then look at shopping. The best model in the world scored a dismal 41.7% when it was asked to help with buying something. That is a failing grade, period. So, this brings us to the big mystery here. Why are these incredibly powerful, sophisticated AIs so terrible at something as basic as shopping? Well, the answer goes back to that penalty for lying. It is all about hallucinations. Here is a perfect, real-world example of what the researchers kept finding. The AI might confidently tell you, hey, this camera is on sale for $499. Here's the link. But then you click on it and you find out the real price is $699, and the link is broken anyway. The AI didn't find a great deal for you. It just made one up because its main goal is to sound helpful, even if that means inventing facts.
So let's be super clear about what this term hallucination means. It's when an AI just generates false information, a price, a link, a product spec that isn't supported by any of its source data, but it presents it to you like it's a stone-cold fact. It's not just wrong, it's deceptively wrong. And folks, here is the smoking gun. This chart shows what happened to some of the model's scores once that fact-checking lie detector kicked in. Look at Gemini 3 Pro. Its score plummeted by a massive 27.6 percentage points. So it sounded good on the surface, but it was just making things up. Now contrast that with Anthropic's Opus 4.5. Its score actually went up by 12 points, which means it was more truthful and grounded than it was just generally helpful. The researchers from the AI Consumer Index report really put it perfectly. They said, models are prone to making up information or providing dead links in order to satisfy the request. They care more about looking like they have the perfect answer than they do about whether that answer is actually true. Okay, so the AI report card is not great. We know that. But that doesn't mean these tools are useless. It just means we need to be a lot smarter about how we use them. So let's put together a quick little handbook for being a smart AI user. So what's the big takeaway from all this? First, use AI for what it's amazing at right now. Brainstorming, creativity, getting ideas for recipes, planning out the steps for a project. Second, be super skeptical of any hard facts it gives you, especially prices, links, or technical details. And always, always double-check those links and prices yourself before you pull out your wallet. The study also noted that AIs are bad at telling you when you're in over your head on a DIY task, so be your own safety check there. Honestly, the best way to think about it is this. Treat your AI like a very helpful but sometimes wildly overconfident intern. Not a flawless expert. Always verify its work. Look, this research is a really important reality check. It shows that even our most advanced AI models are still struggling with a very basic, very human concept, truth. And it leaves us with this huge question for the future. As these systems get exponentially more powerful, are we going to train them to also be more honest? The answer to that question is going to define our entire relationship with AI for years to come.